Hello there, and welcome to episode 625 of Tranquility du Jour. My name is Kimberly Wilson, and I am delighted to be back in your ears, sharing with you some updates. And a big thank you to everyone who has reached out and let me know that you missed the podcast. That means so much to me, having done this since 2005, 18 and a half years. And then pausing in January to just do a little reevaluation and really just to take a little break. I want to say a big thank you for your kindness around it. And I know it's a big shift if you're used to getting something in your ears every week, every other week. So I want to say a big thank you to those of you who are like, oh, I'm enjoying your past archives and or have just been reaching out to say hello. So thank you for that. And I also want to share some updates on what's transpired since episode 624, and then also a little peek on what's ahead, including season 2. So grab your journal, a cup of tea, maybe light a candle, and tune in. I love creating this experience with you, and am so happy to have you here in my world. So thank you. So first of all, what has happened since episode 624 released in January of 2024? Quite a few fun things, going down to like some tiny mundane things to some really heartbreaking things to some exciting things, right? So one is I started a Substack, which has been fun to learn a new platform and to share with you in this way. And it's called Midlife Musings. And you can find links to it and more at kimberlywilson.com/Substack. And it's been a wonderful way to really hone in on midlife in general. And in July, my Midlife Musings newsletter goes out once a month. I shared a variety of midlife mishaps that I think those of you in midlife, close to midlife, or have passed midlife, you may get a kick out of. So definitely head on over there and have a read. I also released 5 Tea with Kimberly videos, ranging from like what you need for your adult ballet practice to how to stay on track, part 1 and 2, and some box breathing and things along those lines, body scan. So please have a peek over at those, and those can be found on YouTube. I'd love to know what you think. And also, if you have any special requests for the next few that I will do and be releasing in the fall. I also, you guys, this is big, I read 2 fun fiction books. Now, I am not a fiction reader. I tend to only read nonfiction, but I have to say, and I think it was within 1 month I read these 2, and they were so captivating. And I was like, I see why you read fiction. They're so fun. They're so engrossing. It was like I could not put these books down, and I don't really have that with nonfiction very often, because nonfiction, you're kind of like, you're absorbing, you're taking it all in, but these books were so good. Many of you have probably read them. The House Across the Lake got a little supernatural towards the end, which I don't really love that as much, but it was so good, so captivating, so well written. And then The Guest List by Lucy Foley, very, very good. I also have consumed a few nonfiction books, but 2 of my favorites so far. Ambition Monster, so good. It's a memoir. Oh my gosh, so good. And really a beautiful model for me with the memoir that I've been working on for 10 years now. I do have draft 2 done, but it needs attention, which I'll get back to it after I finish the one I'm working on. Anyway, it's such a great book, really well written and really enjoyable. And then Real Self-Care, which was also so good. Highly recommend these 2 books. One super sad thing that I'm still not recovered from, I mean, when do we ever recover from loss, but was saying goodbye to Gizmo. So end of February, he had just been diagnosed with cancer and was really deteriorating. And it just got to the point where we knew it was time, and it was so heartbreaking. But I will say on the last day, it was a an unseasonably warm February afternoon, and we went out for some tea. We sat outside, and Tim and I both got almond croissants, and we shared those with Gizmo, and it was just the sweetest thing. And then we went over to Tia's. Like, we were able to be outside and just kind of enjoying our final moments with him, and it was very, very sweet and very, very heartbreaking. I mean, Tim and I have still not recovered from that. Despite the fact he was so much work, right? Like, so much work. I mean, 24/7 care. I mean, the sweet thing, I think you may, those of you who listened to the podcast last summer, you may recall he like vomited on my pillow like the night of my 50th, the night before I turned 50, right? I mean, he just was like, and then we spent Christmas Eve at the emergency vet, and we're just like, really? Is this our life? And yes, it was our life. And we wouldn't change it. He was so amazing. But anyone who's had a senior pet or a senior loved one or a sick loved one, right? You just know the amount of care that goes into it. And so it's been a really, really big loss and hole in our lives. After that, shortly after that, actually, a few weeks after that, I traveled to Borneo, which made me like, what in the world is Borneo? So I wrote a post about it also over on Substack, and you can access all of this for free. And I shared my experience and photos. So 4 years since childhood, I've been obsessed with orangutans, with great apes, really. I think it started with gorillas, and never as much into chimps. I love them, though. They're adorable, but orangutans really stole my heart. And so I went to meet them at a sanctuary, and that I support through Borneo Orangutan Survival. So you may have seen that on various emails or on the website, the Boss logo, and that is actually the organization that I went to go support and meet these animals through. And so it was a pretty magical, crazy experience. And Borneo, for those of you who don't know, it's the world's third largest island, and it's above Australia-ish. So it's quite far, like south of the Philippines. It's insane. It's so beautiful. And rainforest, and the sounds of the orangutans we'd wake up to, because they were rescued and they were on a specific island. And it really was a magical experience, which I write about. Again, over on Substack, I would love for you to take a peek at that. A return to yoga. That retreat, we had a yoga teacher, and it was amazing. And immediately I knew, I was like, she is Jivamukti trained. And Jivamukti, which some of you may recall or know, in 2007, that was my big teacher training I went through. Every year I'd go through a new teacher training. And then in 2007, I went away for a month and did I think it was a 500 hour. I'm not sure. It was a very intense teacher training with Jivamukti. And I've always really loved Sharon Gannon, who is a co-founder. And she's written endorsements for some of my books, and just adored her. Anyway, I love that practice, and it's a vinyasa, which is what I taught for years. And anyway, this teacher, immediately, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Jivamukti. She's like, yes, I am. And I was like, I trained, and I was like, it's my favorite practice. I just love it. It's so beautiful. And I did poses I have not done in years, especially after the hip replacement. I did things like pigeon pose with a lot of blocks and support, and headstand, which I haven't done in so long, and it just felt really, really good. So when I got back to DC, I went to a vinyasa class, and then I was kind of like, I don't know if I can quite do this. My body is it's just not conditioned in the same way it once was with yoga. So then I started going to a lot of yin yoga classes, which are really juicy. And if you haven't done yin, it's really great for aging bodies, all bodies. But it's where you get into these poses and you hold them with the support of props, and you hold them for a few minutes. And it's really a beautiful, quiet, soft practice. So that's been nice to reconnect to the practice of yoga. I hosted our seasonal soiree, which was an opportunity to join live. Well, I shouldn't say live. I had one person live from the coterie, but to join like a live event that was happening virtually in Paris, which was a treat. And I also took 3 ballet classes in French while I was there. Now, I am not a French speaker. I'm a wannabe, but I get by. And I've been doing Duolingo, and I think I'm on like day 127. If you guys don't know Duolingo and you want to learn a language, I highly encourage it, because even if it's like late at night and I'm like getting these nudges, that it'll send you a nudge through the app or through email, I'm like, I don't want to let Duo down, right? So I think I've missed 3 days of these 127. Been doing it since March. So I'm loving it. And anyway, it is quite helpful, and it's to take when you're taking ballet classes in French, but it's also quite helpful that many of the names for poses, I guess you call them poses, positions, movements, are French, right? So to hear it from a native speaker, it's really, really beautiful. And you kind of already know some of them, right? One thing that was actually quite challenging over the past 4 months, well, it was February through June, was participating in an audition that led to rehearsals. I was accepted into the beginner program's adult concert experience or performance. So basically from February until June. We had 3 performances mid-June. And it was just really an unpleasant experience on many levels, which I'll talk about at some point. But I'm glad I got through it. I'm glad I hung in there. And I enjoyed the performance aspect of it, and very, very glad to have it behind me, because then it allowed me to transition into really focusing on my solo and also my group performances for the International Adult Ballet Conference or Festival. This usually happens in June around my birthday, which has been so fun, but this year it's happening early August. So it's kind of nice because it allowed me to do the Washington Ballet thing and then refocus and regroup to be able to do and focus really on my solo, which is To La Vie en Rose, Edith Piaf, so beautiful. And choreographed by Sean Kelly, who is my main teacher, who I just absolutely adore. And it's stunning. He's done a beautiful job, and I hope that I will be able to represent it as beautifully as he's done it. We created a new website. It took months, you guys, really from November, and then really probably got started on it early in the year. And then it released in June. So I hope you like it. If you're having any trouble finding things or you have questions, please reach out, because I want to make sure that it's easy peasy for navigation and all that good stuff. Also started an Ask a Therapist series on Instagram. And so thanks to everyone who's contributed to that or asked a question or given feedback on responses, things along those lines. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that it's been resonating. The latest one that I did was for highly sensitive people. Highly sensitive person. And that was a nice one to do. I mean, as an HSP, but also just knowing how hard it can be as an HSP to exist in the world. I mean, not that we don't get by, we get by, right? But it's just a bit more challenging. We just feel and experience things on a different level. And I don't mean like an elevated level. I just mean different. Like things are more intrusive for us than it is for others. And one thing that I've definitely noticed for me is noise. Noise just really is so intrusive. And so for you might be an HSP. You could take a test, a free test online. It's not a diagnosis. It's just simply helping to better understand yourself. So that was kind of fun to pull together some tips for that. I also started a certificate program that ends this upcoming week, but it's Psychotherapy and Spirituality Institute. It's through them. They're out of New York City, and really, really have been enjoying that and thinking more about psychotherapy and the blend of spirituality. And then one other thing that was super fun is went out to the West Coast for my birthday. And I did a post about this where I shared more about this again over on Substack. And I also did a reel kind of highlighting the experience over on Instagram. So please feel free to have a peek there if you're curious. It was so beautiful. And what I just like to share about that is next to Paris, the Redwoods, being among the Redwoods is my favorite place in the world. And there's just something so magical about it. And we were among the Redwoods for this birthday trip, and it was really special. And I remember as we're leaving, we're driving down this road that is part of like a state park where there are lots and lots of redwoods. And I was just like, pull over, let's go out and just walk through one more grove. Pull over, just one more grove. Pull over, one more grove. And it was like, I don't know, like you're leaving a lover, right? You're like, I don't want to say goodbye. I mean, I even got teary. I was like, I don't know what it is about them, but it's so, so magical and beautiful. And just encouraging you, I'm sure you have places like that in your world, and how to spend more time among them and within them and with them. So important. One other experience that I had that was similar to that was there was a Pierre Bonnard exhibit at the Phillips Collection, and it went on maybe March through June? I must have gone 10 times. And the last day it was open, I went twice that day. I mean, I couldn't get enough of my Bonnard. And again, as I was leaving, I just felt like I was teary as I left. I was like, I don't want to say goodbye. And it might be like, whatever, you'll see these paintings again, but I probably won't, because there were quite a few. I counted 5 to 10 of the, 50 paintings that were there that were from private collections. So these are in people's living rooms, which is insane, but I don't know that I'll ever see them again. I mean, how often is there a Bonnard exhibit? I've been to 3 in my life, one in Paris, one in New York City, and then this one. But where else do you get these private collection pieces on showcase? It was just amazing. And the images that were chosen, the paintings that were chosen were just so, so stunning. I have to say something funny too about my trip to Paris. One of the main reasons I went was because there was, I don't think it's still showing, but an exhibit about Impressionism and the history kind of Impressionism. And then what's crazy is I found out, I got my tickets and was so excited that it's actually coming to DC next. I was like, oh my goodness, no way. So anyway, those of you who are interested in seeing it in the DC area or coming to DC, because it may be easier than having gone to Paris this spring, it will be at the National Gallery of Art. I'm not sure when, but we're checking out. And anyway, Bonnard. Can we just have a moment for Bonnard? And if you don't know Bonnard, Google him. His work is so stunning, just stunning, magical. And it's fun to be moved by things, right? Where you're like, oh my gosh, nature or a painting or a song or, oh my gosh, the Olympics opening ceremony. I am still wrapping my head around. I was so blown away. It was so beautiful, so artistic, so impressive. I mean, it's so French, right? So things like that where we're just moved. It's so important for us to have that in our lives. And how do we get more of it? I think that's a really good question to ask ourselves. Now, what's next? So this is kind of one of the big things I wanted to share with you, but I just, again, wanted to fill in just a few of the blanks of what's transpired over the past many months. And one other thing is that the blog, whenever I started Substack, I've transitioned the blog to Substack. So you'll see posts over there. A lot of them are private posts for people who have joined as a paid member of Substack, but you don't have to. You still get a lot of really wonderful free things. But if you do want things like private podcasts, guided meditations, Spotify playlists, posts that are just for you, then there is an option to join as a paid member, which is kind of cool because it's like $99 a year, which I think comes out, don't quote me with the math, but if you divide 99 by 52, it's like $1.80 a week or something like that. So If you'd like more, just know that's there. But the blog now lives over on Substack, just a kind of a heads up there. And it doesn't have the 20 years of archives. That's actually part of the founding member benefits as you get those archives. But you can still find a lot of things by Googling. For those of you who are interested in looking for old podcasts, definitely you can find all of those. I think that iTunes, which is now what Apple Podcasts, only hosts a certain amount of them. But if you just type in Tranquility du Jour podcast number 5, it should pull up on Google, which allows you to have access to all of the podcasts, which is many, 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 many. So next, what's on the horizon? I mentioned earlier the International Adult Ballet Festival. I am kindly requesting good thoughts on August the 8th. That will be the day of my performance, everyone's performance who is coming to this. And again, it'll be my solo and then 2 pieces. One, Waltz of the Flowers, which is a group piece, and then Swan Lake, which is a group piece. So welcome any and all thoughts there. And hip surgery number 3. And somebody reached out to me. They're like, how can you have a 3rd hip surgery? We only have 2 hips. I was like, good question. So I had a hip replacement 2022. During it, he cracked my femur. Apparently, it's very rare. Put a metal band around it to keep the bone secure. Well, then as the year went on, it was really irritating my soft tissue. So last summer, I had to have that metal band removed. Well, over the past 6 to 8 months, the fascia that was sewn up after the metal band removed has separated. And so I have this big indent where you can touch my bone. I mean, I know you can touch your bones, but usually there's a little cushion around it, and there's none around mine. You can kind of feel my femur. So anyway, he's going to open that back up and re-sew it. And my GP told me that sewing fascia is like sewing lasagna. I'm like, that's really interesting. So I guess what she was saying is just very porous and very thin and I don't know, challenging. But somehow the stitches or the staples gave out, right? Or there weren't enough put in. So again, very, very rare. So yes, this is all happening on the same poor hip. So that's happening mid-August. And then apparently I have to take quite a bit of time off of ballet. So that makes me very sad. But I will be back afterwards. Also working on a book proposal. So you may have seen this, Advanced Tranquility, and you can join the wait list to find out more about it if you go to the books page of my website. And I'm really excited about this. This is basically Tranquilista, which some of you may know that book. It came out in 2010. It was my second book. And it is being rewritten with an eye toward midlife and the idea of embracing more beauty and balance in midlife. And when I say beauty, it's not about beauty products. It's beauty about aesthetics and appreciation of the world and things around us. For HSPs, beauty is something that's really, really important to us. And it's a decluttered space. It's about flowers. It's about performing arts. It's about Bonnard, right? It's about seeing orangutans, right? So whatever it is that evokes beauty for you. So anyway, I'm working on this, and my hope, fingers crossed, is to have a proposal to my publisher by the end of August. So we'll see. That's the hope. That's the plan. Fingers stay crossed. A couple other things that I'm working on for you guys are some digital courses. So you may recall Year of Tranquility. It's the last book I released in 2019. And the idea is to take that and that course that I've created around it and shared within the coterie over the years, take that and actually update it, similar to what I'm doing at Tranquilista, with a midlife bent. So stay tuned for that. I think that'll be a really fun kind of year-long course for anyone who may be interested in having a bit more tranquility in their lives. I'll also be releasing a micro course called Embrace Your Inner Parisian, which is a kind of just a little love tap towards my joy of Paris and all that kind of the French culture has to offer. And I look forward to sharing with you. It'll just be a little micro course. So it'll have 5 lessons-ish versus a big course that has multiple modules. with lessons in it. And so I'm excited about releasing this and creating this for you. And again, just with some fun tips on how to live a more Parisian type lifestyle, even if you live in rural West Virginia, right? We can all embrace these simple pleasures. I think that's one of the things that the French do so well, which you probably saw with the opening of the Olympics, of just like all the attention to detail. You guys, from having people in windows, like playing classical music, I think it was like violins, and they're in like black tie, to like the red streamers and the heavy metal band. It was just like in the Marie Antoinettes. It was so amazing and so creative, so inspiring. And so that's whenever I think of Paris, that's what I think of, all this attention to detail. The other thing that I want to mention, well, two more things. One is the fall collection of TDJ. So last fall, I sunset the collection, being available all year round. And I basically said that I would be releasing occasional capsules in the future. And so this fall, the plan is to release a small capsule of just some basic staples that are beautiful for everyday wear, and also for dressing up, dressing down, also for travel, but also for wearing to the office, and also making it seasonless so you can wear it year round. So anyway, stay tuned for that. And last but not least, what I want to share is season 2. Okay, so the plan for season 2 is going to be limited edition, releasing in the fall, and it's going to be interviews with some amazing women in midlife who I adore and who are doing amazing things. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Clearly, I am using that word too much, but I just can't emphasize enough the importance of women in midlife feeling seen. And that's the beauty of having people on the show where we're really talking about this and the importance of honing in on the midlife journey, the challenges that come with it, and also the ability to kind of redefine, reinvent, and really kind of celebrate this phase of wisdom, all that we've accumulated, and from a wisdom perspective, and all that we are looking forward to, while also paying attention to the challenges that come with it. And as I said in the latest midlife musings, I talked about midlife mishaps, which range from getting lost on a moving Amtrak train to losing my credit card, despite the fact I just put it down on the table for the purchase and set the phone over it and then did it again 5 minutes later. I mean, just these things you're like, is this really my life? Is this really happening? And apparently this stuff is very, very common. So I hope that the series will help you feel seen. And that is going to be season 2. Again, we'll release in the fall. And I'll be sharing more, of course, as it gets closer. But I just wanted to give you a little peek inside so you knew what was on the horizon. So I hope this has been helpful as I just brought you up to speed a little bit with what had been transpiring the past many months, but also to give you a look at what's ahead. And I hope you're excited, and I hope that I am providing meaningful tools for you as we think about how to really build our tranquility toolkits and feel good about the way we're showing up in the world, especially as we age. And as Melanie and many others have shared, it's like we've grown up together. I mean, we were babies. I mean, how old was I in 2005? I can't even do the math. Oh my gosh, I was like 32 when I started the podcast, you guys. That's insanity. Okay, so 32. Wow. And so if you think about how different we are, in September, it will be 19 years since I started the podcast, and just how we have evolved. I mean, how the world has evolved, social media, all these things. And it's a joy, and it's also a challenge. And I'm delighted to be on this journey with you, for new listeners, and to have been on this journey with you, to those of you who've been around for many years. All right. Closing out to wish you a beautiful, beautiful week ahead, and to say thank you so much for staying subscribed to this podcast. And I hope you continue to find what comes ahead, what is ahead for you in digital courses, in offerings, in the season 2 of the podcast and the eco fashion collection, all the things that they are meaningful to you and they help bring a dose of tranquility into your everyday. Thanks for being here.